My name is DJ Stutz, and I am a podcaster. I am an author of a children's book called Roman is Bigger. I am a parent coach, and I also work with special needs children up in Ashton, and so that's part of the joys of my life. My podcast is called Imperfect Heroes. Isn't that what we all are as we try to be parents? And we have new episodes every Monday. So Imperfect Heroes, insights into parenting. And I also have a free parenting workshop the fourth Thursday of every month. And you can register for that on my website. There's a flyer right there. You can see my purple bottle. If you're interested, you can grab that. There's a QR code. You can go straight to the website. But let's get going on what we're here to talk about is, okay, meltdowns are my favorite, said no one ever, right? But me, they are my favorite. And so you might think I'm a little crazy for saying that, and you might not be wrong. But I understand that meltdowns can be difficult. They always come at the worst time, don't they? And then there's the screaming and the crying and the kicking and the mean words. And so we can get really frustrated with all of that and not handle it exactly the way we want to, or we can look at it as an opportunity. This is a fantastic opportunity to get to know your kids better, what sets them off, and know how they're managing different things. It's also a great opportunity for you to show them what your boundaries are and how much you love them and build that relationship even stronger. So, I'm sorry, excuse me. I have been a teacher for over 20 years. I am the oldest child of 7. I am the mother of 5, grandma to almost 13, and auntie to 70. I have never had a time in my life when I have not been around little kids. I have seen my share of meltdowns as a teacher, even in the classroom, to the point where there were a couple of years I worked in very low income, poverty stricken areas, and I even had little kids that would sometimes stab another child with a pencil because they didn't get what they wanted fast enough. And so I learned to manage these things quickly and effectively. So let's talk for a little bit about where we're going to start. If you have kiddos that are struggling with temper tantrums, I know this is going to stink and it's a little hard. The first place you're going to look is in the mirror. And so what are they seeing when you get mad? How are you on the road when you're in the car and someone cuts you off? How are you at home when things don't go well and you're frustrated? Or maybe you're in a grocery store or some kind of a store and the clerk isn't being very cooperative with you, or maybe they're having a bad day, so how do we react to that? What are our kids doing? Because they watch us every second. Even when we think they're not watching, they're watching. That's how it works. And so maybe we need to stop and think about, how am I managing my own frustrating points, my own frustrating times, and revisit that. Let's look on. So stay calm. Even when they're not calm, we need to be calm. It's really hard to calm a child down when we're frustrated and upset, right? Doesn't work too well. So we want to make sure that we take a breath, assess the situation, and then come up with a plan that will work. And so if we can just remember to do those things and stay calm while we're talking to our child, even if they're way off, I understand, I see that you're upset, and you validate how they're feeling, but you're not going to engage. You're just adding to the noise, aren't you, when they're upset and screaming and yelling? And so I actually have a challenge for you guys. I would say take this next week and mark down when temper tantrums are happening. Notice who's involved, where are we, what time of day, What does it seem to be about? Although temper tantrums quite often are not really about what they think they're mad at. It's something deeper and going on. Then keep that data for a week. You're going to be able to see some patterns. You're going to be able to notice some commonalities that are going on with your kiddos. So maybe it's a certain time of day, or maybe it's a certain friend, or when they're doing a certain activity. Maybe it's right before dinner, right? And so when you notice these patterns and these commonalities, it makes it so much easier to come up with a plan to how am I going to set things up ahead of time so that my kid is able to be more successful with managing those great big emotions. All right, change page, right? So maybe while you're doing this and you're taking down the data and you're noticing, well, holy smokes, we're having a lot of meltdowns in the grocery store. So let's stop and look at what's going on. Maybe are you taking them straight to the grocery store after you pick them up from daycare or right after school? And maybe they are hungry. Maybe they need to run around for a little bit, and they've been in school all day long and they need that extra time. And quite honestly, and this is the funnest reason that they will do this, they want you. They've been away from you all this time, and they want to have a little bit of time with you. If you can set things up ahead of time, it might be worth 10 minutes at the park to not have to fight. How much time are you going to spend fighting the temper tantrum? Does it kind of even out, right? And so think about what you can do. Let me give you some ideas. Maybe they just need something to do. Are they just following you around? Right? They're tired, or they're in the cart and you're busy getting things done. What if you gave them the list? And even if you make a list for no purpose, then to give your kids something to do, that's a good reason to have a list. But maybe you give them the list to check things off. As they're little, even 3 and 4-year-olds are learning to count. We need 3 cans of pineapple. Can you help me? And they're helping you count. 1, 2, 3. Now they're involved. Is this apple good or is that apple good? Does one have blemishes? And now you're even teaching them some skills at a very young age. A 3-year-old can choose a good apple. And so when you engage them in that, you've planned ahead so that you can avoid whatever it is that's coming up. All right, so now let's go and understand that a lot of these meltdowns are just developmentally and age appropriate. It is appropriate and normal for a 2, 3-year-old to have a meltdown, to have a hard time managing their emotions, and they don't have the vocabulary to say their true feelings, which, by the way, is what my book, Roman is Bigger, is about. But so we're going to help them through that. We don't need to give them an excuse. They're 3. They're tired. They're hungry. We don't want to give them those excuses because we want them to learn how to manage through those feelings. They're going to need, how many of you have seen adults who haven't learned that lesson? And they are just out of control. Well, we want to teach our kids when they're young so that as they grow, they have that skill. And so we're not going to make excuses for them, but we're also going to understand that some of this is developmentally appropriate, even if it's not socially appropriate. And so we're just going to, this is where we are. This is, okay, I know what to do. We're going to teach you and help you through these emotions, these strong feelings, and how to manage them physically with what you're going to do. So how do we teach these things? Well, whether it's sports or art or any other skill, how to cook, what do? They practice, right? They need to practice in order to improve. Well, I've got an idea, and with all the families that I coach, and I have families that I coach all over the United States, and I've even had some families from Israel, Australia, Spain, and one of the things that I teach them is I'm a big believer in weekly family meeting, and I don't care what you call it, but it's a great opportunity to do some role play, right? So how do you introduce yourself to someone? What are some issues that your family has been dealing with during the week? And we're not going to say, and Joey had a hard time with sharing. So no. It's just going to say, hey, we're going to practice. So who wants to be the person who has to share? Who wants to be the person who's going to ask, can I help? Can I, or not can I help? Can I have that toy? And understand that it's okay if they say no. It's their toy. They're using it. And so then what are you going to do? We're going to practice these things. We're going to practice if, my little sister takes my sweater, right? How do we manage these things? And the more you practice it, when things are calm, when everyone's okay and there's not big issues, that's the time that they're going to learn more. Now, I had one family that I was coaching, and they were out of Mississippi, and they had something called late start. So one day a week, I can't remember, it might have been Wednesday, their school actually started an hour later than normal, and that's when the school had their staff meetings and their trainings and all that kind of stuff. So they decided that instead of sleeping in on that day, they were going to get up, and that was the day for their family meeting, and they were going to practice, and Mom made a fun breakfast for everyone, and because they had that time, and that's when they could put it to use. So that's something to think about to kind of help you out. And then when they happen, and they will happen, even the easiest kids are going to have a meltdown here and there, right? And so now you're armed yourself. You're not going to be upset with all of this. You're going to be able to say, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting this, but here we are. Let's calmly look at things and move forward. Well, how are you going to do that? We're going to set boundaries, right, in how we behave, how we talk to other people. And so we're going to enforce those boundaries, right? And remember that boundaries are for adults too. That help us manage our behavior. Think of how we behave when we're really frustrated and they're at the store and we're in the middle of the cereal aisle and they want the Cocoa Puffs, right? How are we going to manage those? And so now you've come up with this plan, and now when the meltdown comes, you're set. I got this. I don't need to be upset. I know exactly what we're going to do. And so understand that those boundaries actually build trust. Our kids feel safer. They feel more confident because they know what to expect. Even when mom or dad are tired, they've had a bad day at work, they're in a rush. We get all of these things, and our kids wind up having to watch you and gauge you. How is mom feeling today? How is dad feeling today? And then how am I going to behave compared to that? We really want our kids to have to do that as they're growing up in our homes. And so we're going to set those boundaries for ourselves, but also for our kids. And now, a 1-year-old isn't going to be able to participate in this very well. 3-year-old can, as you talk about what are your family values, what's important for us to send on to our kids. And then we're going to let them help us. How are we going to show kindness in our home? How are we going to show honesty in our home? Whatever the values are that are important to you, you're pushing them, and the kids are being part of the answer. Well, we need to do this. That's a great idea. So how are we going to make that work? And now if they're part of the conversation, they're part of the decisions, then that is going to help them to be more participatory participants. There we go. When these things come up. And so that's a really big deal. And then we want to know that consistency, I know, is the key. And so when this happens and, oh, I'm in a rush, I can't deal with it. So you're going to have to come up with, okay, I'm going to stop. I may be a little bit late, but it's worth making that effort in the beginning, because the more you are consistent with that and take the time, then the faster they're going to get used to those boundaries. The faster they're going to get used to the expectations. And you're going to start having fewer and fewer and fewer issues. Will they ever totally go away? Anyone have a teenager? They don't ever go away completely, even with us as adults, right? But they are going to have the tools to help them through it as they get older. And you can have these conversations with them because you set that up when they were a little kid. You said, oh, so this is what we're doing right now. How can we fix this? How can we make it better? Let's also understand that when we're in the middle of the meltdown, it's not really the best time to be teaching. It's the time to help them work through it. So let's go back to the grocery store. That seems to be a common place for my little speech here today. And so let's go back to that grocery store. And we're in the middle of the cereal aisle. And your kiddo wants the Cocoa Puffs. Well, I am not getting Cocoa Puffs today. Well, there goes my talk. And so I'm not going to get the Cocoa Puffs today. And so then they throw themselves on the ground, screaming, kicking, and you're thinking, oh dear, how are people looking at me? What are they thinking? So that might be a problem. Don't worry about that, what they're thinking. I'm now the old grandma that I used to worry about, right? When my kids had the meltdowns. And my thoughts are, oh, sweetheart, I feel for you. And I would help you if I felt confident enough that you would not be insulted. But my heart goes out to you, and I am not judging you. I know that you are going through a rough time. So don't worry about those people. And if they are judgy, who cares, right? That's their issue. But now we can look at our kiddo and say, wow, yeah, you're really upset about the Cocoa Puffs. So here's what we can do. You can sit and cry here in the store until you're calm, and then we can go on. Or if you need to, we can go to the car. You can cry there. Now, my youngest son, ADHD through the roof, right? And when he wanted it, it was hard to calm him down. Luckily, and we were living in Las Vegas at the time, I went to the same store all the time. And, you know, you get to know people after so long. And I could go up and say, can you hold this for me? I'll be back in about an hour. And we'd get in the car, go home, and he had to calm down. And sometimes it took him a while to calm down because of how his brain processed things. But then, once he was calm, we could go back and get the stuff. Or maybe I had to wait till my husband came home. And then I'd go back and do it again. Was that a pain in the butt? Yup, it was a pain in the butt. But those meltdowns got fewer and fewer and further apart, and they were less intense when they would happen. And it got to the point where I could say, Christian, are we going home or are we going to finish shopping? Oh, shop. Okay, good job. But one key is they never get the Cocoa Puffs once they've done that. At least not on that shopping trip, not on that day. And so we'll have to find some other way and say, geez, you know, originally I was thinking Cocoa Puffs, but now I can't get them because, you know, you had a meltdown, and that's not how we get what we want. But maybe next time, we'll see. Or you can come up with an alternative if, you know, a lot of parents don't want those sugary cereals, and that's great. Come up with something else that they can choose before you go to the store. Say, we got to get cereal. So what's the cereal that we're going to get? And again, give them the list. Help them, have them help you find things and move ahead. All right. Luckily, I have a backup. We're in good shape. So let's make sure that what you're asking of your kids is actually developmentally appropriate or age appropriate. And the funny thing is, I've been in stores or in different places at the park, whatever, and I'll hear a parent say, act your age. Have you ever heard that one? Yeah. And my response is, they are. We just need to help them through that. And so make sure that what we're asking is something they can actually do. And the truth is, generally, we tend to expect too much from our kids or too little from our kids. They're kind of insulted, or they get lazy because I didn't have to do something that hard before. And so really pay attention to what is my child able to do, and then concentrate on what is the next step that we're going to be working on. That's going to make such a huge difference. And realize that what they're able to do on Wednesday may not be that they're able to do it on Saturday because of some of these other issues that come up. So we're going to help them through it, remind them of the things that they need to do. So this summer, I had the blessing of having one of my grandsons for 7 weeks this summer, helping out the family with work schedules and no school. And he's 6 years old. One of my assignments was to help him get caught up on his reading. And so, here's Nana. They call me Nana. And so sitting down and I'm helping him and we're going over things and he's getting a ton of attention and he loves it. He's so happy. But I realized as a teacher that he's going to have to learn how to work independently on his own at some point because he's not going to have a school teacher that can sit next to him, think he's the most adorable thing in the classroom, and help him with every issue all day long. It's not going to work. So one day, I explained everything to him. We went through it 3 times. And then I got up and said, hey, I'm going to be cleaning the breakfast dishes while you finish this. What? He was shocked. I'm like, yeah, you got this. You know what to do. And then he went, well, I don't understand. Well, you understood it a minute ago, so I think you're good. Well, I can't. I'm like, I know you can. I'm doing the dishes. Well, I want to go play. Sure, you can go play as soon as your work is done. I want my iPad. Sure, you can have it as soon as your work is done. And then he went into the insults. You don't care about me. And it's like, okay, now you're talking silliness. I'm not even going to answer that. I'm just in the kitchen. You do it. So here's your choice. You can cry and sit there and complain all day if you want. I don't care. That's fine with me. Or you can get it done and then we'll go have some fun. It took him an hour and a half to make that decision. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, she's serious. Okay, I'm going to do my work. Good for you. I'm really excited. And he got it done in 10 minutes. What a celebration we had. There was ice cream involved. And we had a great time celebrating. And guess what? The next morning, as we sat down, I explained everything to him. I didn't even have to say, he goes, Nana, I'm a big boy and I'm smart and I can do this by myself. I said, I know you can. And he moved on. Now, was that a fun hour and a half? Absolutely not. And I was just at some point, I'm not even talking. You can talk all you want. I'm not going to respond because you're saying silly things now and you know they're not true. But once he got it and turned it around, did he test me a few more times? Yeah, he did. But it wasn't an hour and a half. It was more like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then he would do his work. And so that's kind of how you have to approach things sometimes when you're dealing with your little ones, is making sure that they understand, making sure they're up to the task, and making sure you're in the area. And then, that's your choice. If you want to do this and cry for all day, I'm fine with that. I'm here. I got nothing else to do. And when you give them choices, make sure that they are those choices that you can live with, that you can follow through on. Don't tell them that, they're never going to have ice cream again in their whole life if they don't do this. And so you want to make sure that they're things that you're what. Now, does it need to be convenient? No. It's a pain in the butt for you as a parent to follow through. And that's okay, but make sure that you're willing to follow through with whatever you said. And I love the term, I'm fine either way, right? You can cry here on the floor of the store, or you can calm down. I'm fine either way. Now the choice is theirs. We're not coercing them. We're not forcing them into this. But I know that I physically can't force a child to quit crying, right? It's not going to happen. I mean, not without destroying the relationship in quite a way. So give them permission. I've never, in all my years of teaching kindergarten, first day of school, right? Right. And so I would never said, don't cry. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad you miss your mommy. That means you love her. That is so wonderful. So do you want to cry right here? Do you want me to sit by you? We have a cozy corner over here. You can cry over there. You choose what you want to do. Or you can come and be with our group. Once a child is given permission to cry, oh, then the show is over, right? You're not busy trying to get me to stop crying. You're busy doing other things. And you've given me permission to cry. It calms down so much faster when you do that. It's an amazing thing. And I love doing that. So we go back to just stay really matter of fact in what you are teaching and how you are talking with them. Don't get all riled up, but don't be all, oh, poor baby, let me. It's just like, hey, sweetie, I see that you're upset. I get it. I would be upset too. So here's some choices of how you can handle it. It's up to you. You're going to see a huge change in how we manage with our kids. So are meltdowns really my favorite? Well, probably not when we're in the middle of it, not in the moment. But I do see them as these awesome opportunities to grow and to attach to your kids and to teach them and to grow yourself. When you decide you're going to take a path that is calm, that is predetermined, and that you're working together with your spouse, it changes you and who you are inside in it at home, but also at work and in other places. So thanks for listening, sticking around, and I just want to encourage you to enjoy raising kids. So on my podcast, I always end every episode with the same phrase: let's find joy in parenting. And so I challenge you all to do that as well. Thank you so much.